Welcome back for another video. In this video we're going to talk players to buy ahead of the Saturday deadline for Gameweek 23. We're also going to talk about blanks and doubles coming up. If you'd like to follow the FPL content on this channel to guide you through the rest of the season, make sure you're subscribing. So let's start with the goalkeepers. And the good news if you've got Dubravka is he's top of the table this week, projected 4 points with a home fixture against Luton. Newcastle are going to hope to secure back-to-back wins for the first time since Gameweek 14 after an impressive away win to Villa midweek. Edison's all but 0.1 projected points behind Dubravka this week. If you're looking for a keeper, he's got the double Gameweek 25 to come and he doesn't blank in 26. Though we know what a wind-up Edison can be, very unfortunate for owners in Gameweek 22, having conceded in the 93rd minute to lose his clean sheet. One keeper who's not here but could still be an option on a wildcard and one for the future is Fleckham. His appeal is he's got the double in 25, albeit a poor double. He's got no blank in 26 and no blank in 29. We've got a nice graphic from FPL Spaceman here, stipulating the Gameweek 29 blank likelihoods for each fixture. And if you may not free hit that week, or if you've used it already, that will be important. Fulham, Tottenham, Burnley and Brentford are currently the only teams with a game on. Although Edison's got the double Gameweek 25, he's got a 95% chance of blanking in Gameweek 29. The next round of the FA Cup's the end of February, after which point we'll have the Gameweek 29 blanks locked in. For now, we've got the percentage likelihoods based on the bookies' odds of who progresses. We have to give a shout out to Pickford, who got a ton of stick at the start of the season, failing to keep a clean sheet for the first 7 straight weeks. But after a 10-pointer against Fulham, he's moved in front as a top scoring keeper now in the game with 87 points. Everton do have Spurs and City next though, so he's not worth looking at right now. Let's move on to defenders, and Trippier tops the table for the Luton fixture. Despite Newcastle's struggles recently, he could be an ahead of the curve pick with such a good run of games ahead. It doesn't get much better than Newcastle's next 5 with Luton, Forest, Bournemouth and Wolves in there. Something that's also perhaps a bit overlooked, and could be the next big edge to be had, is that as we draw closer to the deadline, it's decreasingly likely that double Gameweek 25 drops in for Liverpool. By the time you watch this, it might have been announced or it might not have been. But if it's not announced by the Gameweek 23 deadline, it could be too late, because that would be barely 2 weeks notice for fans, and the Premier League have been aiming to give at least double that. Therefore, perhaps we won't need all the money for Salah back in our teams, which suddenly opens the door to opportunities like De Bruyne and 2.5 mil spare, or Foden even with 4.5 mil spare, which could go towards a player like Trippier. Looking elsewhere in the top projections, unsurprisingly the rest of Newcastle's back line, Sherburn and Botman make the table. Alex Moreno's away to Sheffield United, however he's in a void as Digne is estimated to be back around the 11th of February, so he's a short-term pick at this point. Again, Chilwell also makes the table with Chelsea home to Wolves, but Colwill could be back in about a week's time, so he's a hard avoid. A frustrating 0-pointer for Estupinian owners, who was hooked at half-time versus Luton as they went on to lose 4-0. He's projected 3.9 points this week, and still a perfectly fine move. He's got Palace home next, and also faces Sheffield United, Everton, Fulham and Forest in his next 6 games. There's not too many budget defenders leaping out at the moment. Gusto still looks great for 4.2 mil, but keep the blank in 26 in mind. Branthwaite's been excellent for Everton at 4.1 mil, but he does have Spurs and City next. Al-Dakhil started the last 2 in a row for Burnley, and he's only 3.8 mil, cheapest defender in the game, and he scored against City, and he's already confirmed to play in Gameweek 29, so he could be a super handy cheap enabler. Let's talk midfielders. Top this week is a surprise name, it's Fernandes with 5.6 points. They're home to West Ham next, but if we look at the next 5 projections, Foden's miles ahead and slightly cheaper. Saka also ahead over the next 5, but obviously costs more. Garnacho makes the table though, with 3.3 less projected points over the next 5 over Bruno, but he's a massive 3.4 mil cheaper. Could be a great week to buy Gordon, who is 3rd on the table for the Luton fixture. Isak picked up an injury last match, could be set for a spell on the sidelines, equating to Gordon playing as their striker, until either Isak or Wilson are back. This isn't necessarily a good thing though, it's a very different role to his usual positioning, hugging the touchline and cutting inside. He's only played as their striker once in this season and he blanked. So let's talk about De Bruyne. 12 and 7 points since his return from injury, and he started against Burnley. The big concern many have had is if you buy De Bruyne, then it's basically impossible to have Haaland, Salah and Trent, assuming that Liverpool double in 25. But as we said, as the deadline nears, if that double Gameweek 25 announcement doesn't drop, then De Bruyne suddenly looks incredibly appealing. The caveat is you'll need to be willing to accept some benchings in the coming weeks. There's no guaranteeing he plays every game, nor in the double game week, but the same can be said about all the City mids to be honest. City don't play till Monday though, so there's a nice recovery period there. Foden's a great transfer as well and 2.7 mil cheaper than De Bruyne. Over the last 6 game weeks he's taken 29 shots, which ranks 5th best among all players over that run. Richarlison netted his 7th goal in 7 games against Brentford last game, and he's exactly 7 mil. Still a solid transfer with Everton, Brighton and Wolves to come before the blank in 26. If you're looking to pick him up, just make sure you're able to get a team out in Game Week 26. As a reminder, Chelsea, Liverpool, Luton and Spurs all blank that week. On to the forwards, and Watkins leads this week, projected 6 points. That actually puts him top among all players for Game Week 23. Let us know in the comments who your captain's going to be. Solanke's second with 5.8, and then it's Haaland with 5.3. However, that's with an estimated 68 minutes for Haaland. If he gets 80 minutes as an example, that puts him top of FPL View projections for Game Week 23. So will he come straight into the start in 11? After getting a short run out last match, it could point towards the start next game. They're away to Brentford Game Week 23. A tough dilemma for a lot of our teams is which forward to sell for Haaland though. If you've got Darwin, and Liverpool look like they don't get double Game Week 25, then he does have Arsenal next, but then he is home to Burnley after that. Watkins has got Sheffield United next, with more green fixtures to come, and likewise Solanke's home to Forest, and then he's got Fulham. And then do you sell Alvarez after a brace? It always feels wrong to sell a player after a haul, but of all the options, perhaps he makes the most sense, because his minutes do look less assured going forward with De Bruyne and Haaland back. Let us know in the comments though, if you're buying Haaland back now, who are you selling? Outside of that, there's not many forwards leaping out as considerations at the moment. João Pedro's projected 3.9 points, currently yellow flagged. Foster fell in price to 4.7 mil overnight, and he could be a handy pick for blank Game Week 26 and blank Game Week 29. Thanks very much for watching. There's lots more great FPL content to come before the next deadline, so make sure you subscribe him. See you soon for the next one.